Hi, everybody. It's Kim Winter here from Logistics Executive Group. Trust you are all well and coping wherever you are with whatever you're doing. It's my pleasure today to have a very special guest, an international guest, and this young lady is a native of Kenya, which we're going to hear a little bit about. Travelled extensively and currently in Australia. Annastacia Wainaina is a registered nurse. She's a healthcare professional. She is also a conscious leadership strategist. She's a keynote speaker, and she's an author of a very successful book. Without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Annastacia Wainaina. Hey, Annastacia, how are you?
I'm good. Lovely to be with you here today.
Thanks so much. And I know it's very late where you are, so I do appreciate you having the energy to talk to us. And it's great to have you on board for this episode. So, Annastacia, in terms of your background, I see that you've had a background in healthcare profession all the way through from reasonably early days, and then you've expanded into a lot of social causes, which we've crossed paths with on occasions, and you're also a member of the Professional Speakers in Australia. And as I said, you're an author, and I want to talk about that a little bit later. But hey, with all of our guests, I love to get a background on your upbringing and your early part of your career. So by all means, share with the audience where it all started for you.
Born and raised in Kenya by two amazing parents, had a stable upbringing, two present parents who are loving and caring. And I was given everything. So grew up in Kenya and then headed off to Finland. And from Finland, I worked in England for about a year and then off to Australia. And here I am. My background, as you said, is healthcare. And I have done everything from acute sector to aged care. I've nursed neonatal and in aged care, both extreme end of life. So that's in a snapshot me.
Okay, and I understand you've moved on from being in the corporate healthcare field to being an entrepreneur and setting up your own business. You're a consultant and contractor now. Tell us a little bit about that journey and what drove you. What was the tipping point, and what was the light bulb moment that encouraged you to say, you know what, I'm going to jump into this and do my own thing and then try my luck in my own business? How did that work?
Yeah, so as a nurse, I had always thought nursing is this career that just you have to be at the bedside. Now, I remember having a conversation with somebody and I was telling them how much I wanted to do law because I wanted to be liberated. And they said, you're in one of the professions where you can branch and become anything and do anything. And I hadn't thought about it then, but it's from there where I still did end up doing a master's in law. But I was left bedside nursing, did management, and from management, and then in acute sector, I entered into aged care sector. And from there, I started to notice I don't like being told what to do or people just setting how far you can go, what you can achieve and stuff. I like to make my own rules. And I was thinking, how can I make this happen? And contracting became a thing. And so now I do risk, quality and compliance in aged care. I contract and I am absolutely loving it because I get to have autonomy and to do my own thing and to be able to support people at the capacity that I know I'm capable of.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing that. And the light bulb went off in my moment when you said, I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of Kenyans, and it's not an uncommon Kenyan trait that folks from the land of Kenya are very independent and they're very assertive. And many of whom I've met are independent and like to do their own thing and have their own businesses as well. So, and for you, was this something you think that your upbringing encouraged, or what was it? Was it something more later in life?
Definitely. I saw my parents were entrepreneurs, and so that in itself set the pace out there. But also just my own personality, where I like my autonomy. And I always say sometimes you're led by people. You know, when they manufacture cars, they make them that they can drive up to 200 kilometers an hour or even more. And then you have all these rules that tells you 50 kilometers an hour, and it's frustrating. And that's how it feels when you're under someone's authority. You can only go to a certain degree, and I just want to explore the world. I want to dare and do things, take risk, and see what the world has got to offer. And so I learned that early about myself, and I really needed to really honor that side of me.
It's awesome. So you want to drive your engine to its maximum capacity.
Mm-hmm. Literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job. And I've look, you're a guest speaker as well, and I've been around in Australia and been to a couple of events where you've been speaking. You're very inspirational, I must say. And usually there's a fairly big social impact cause or other related to what you're associated with and what you're talking about. Talk to us a little bit about some of the guest speaking and the public speaking that you've done, and what has triggered you to drive what you talk about.
Two main things I talk about. One is on the social aspect about children, because I'm such a big believer that children deserve to have a family, love, and safety. So I'm a very big advocate of child rights and child advocacy. But also I talk about conscious leadership. And why conscious leadership? Because I believe everything begins and ends with leadership. It's leadership that determines whether an organization is going to make it through a COVID pandemic, or it's leadership that determines whether an organization can go through change and make it on the other side successfully, or it's the leadership that determines whether the organization is just about to fade away because they do things the same way. So I'm a big believer on leadership.
Sure. And I guess that segues us into a book that you wrote, and from memory it would have been just reasonably recently, about 2 or 3 years ago. You can correct me, but the book is called Freedom Fires, and I've had an opportunity to read some of your book, and I must say very, very interesting, clearly from the heart and experience, and you draw on a range of different experiences. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book, when it was, why it was germinated in your mind, when it was published, and what the key messages are from the book.
Yeah, so a self-published book, 2019, Ignite Freedom Fires, Blazing the Fire, the Eternal Fire Inside of You. And what really brought me to write the book is because I wanted to bring forth the things that had brought me to where I am, the lessons, the key things that I had learned, the wisdom that I'd gleaned into, the inspiration that I had gleaned into, particularly to really Make It Happen to life. Because if anybody had told me that I would start an organization, a non-for-profit organization, I thought they were mad. But to see it become and stand for the children that it stands for and what it stands for me, that needed to be celebrated. And I thought I needed to put the things that the process and what I had learned along the way for my children and for the people that comes after me to be able to read. So really, I call it a companionship for somebody who's wanting to go a little bit deeper inside and just want somewhere to lean in, to learn just really tips and practical tools to take one step at a time.
Yeah, okay, interesting. And I know you get asked to speak about the book quite often. And what sort of feedback do you get? What sort of questions do you get about the themes that you're driving? I know you speak on occasions to corporate groups about stepping outside the square, using your passion, as you say, to really have the guts, if you like, a New Zealand term, to be able to really stand up and do something different. How do you find that message resonates in a corporate environment? Do people really catch on to that, or do they step back from that?
Yes, really step into that, because the one key thing we are starting to realize is the importance of using both our left and right brains. And corporate really, most of the time, traditionally have always been led by people who are left-brained, and they think logically and analytical, and the soft skills have always been put on the side. But now we are realizing that this relationship, how we relate and how we bring that compassion and love into the workplaces, it's quite key. Because, and I was just actually saying it earlier, that in an environment where we talk about psychological safety in the same room that we're talking about performance management, it tells us that relationships are becoming almost the bottom line. And so it is really important how we manage those relationships. I'm in the aged care sector, where every day I'm being asked to talk about conflict management, how we performance manage people, how we have courageous conversation, how we lead people through change. And as particularly during COVID, it's how we lead people through change. And if there's anything Ignite talks about, it's really how you go through what you're going through and come out of the other side victorious.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks a lot. And, at the end of the day, what we're going to do here is with all of our guests, we will provide with this publication of this conversation, we'll have your contact details on LinkedIn and any other contact details you want to give us. And people will be able to also go online with a link to be able to purchase the book. I've certainly highly recommend it. It's a really good read. It's from a different angle than most books that I've read in the area of motivation and passion and entrepreneurship. So I highly recommend it. So in terms of yourself, then, as a young entrepreneur, here you are, a young woman leaving your home country, which in many ways is a very traditional environment in Kenya, and you're aware that we have a lot of contacts in Kenya at Logistics Executive Group. And you've been a great supporter over the years of oasisafrica.org.au, where we've educated over 8,000 children from many slums that you're very familiar with and seen in your home country. From your perspective, leaving home at that age, going to Finland, which I guess must have been fairly exciting, coming to Australia, you would have learned a lot of lessons along the way. And one of the things I like to do with our guests is ask them a couple of questions on the way out. And that is, the first thing is, as an entrepreneur, what lessons would you like to share with our audience if they're looking to, whether it be to write a book, or whether they are a registered nurse and they want to go out and consult like you did, or whether they're in any other situation and they want to build their own business? What would be a couple of things coming from you, from your experience and your background, that you would share with people?
One of the key lessons that I've learned on the way is that don't wait to be invited at the table. Create the table for yourself. Create the table, make your own rules, and live your own life. Because once you create the table, it's within your own rules, and know that you're created for greatness. Second thing that I've learned is that failure or fear, those two things are actually your friend. Fear, because it's our brain telling us we are getting out of our comfort zone and we need to embrace it. Failure, which are really lessons, it's just you keep trying. And the more no's you hear is because when you hear a yes, it's going to be a stronger yes. And so you have to be ready to know that the journey is not going to be smooth. It's going to be up and down. And you're going to hear more no's than you hear yes. But you have to be willing, persistent and consistent, and not give up.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that resonates with a lot of people, and it's a message that we've heard over the 40, 50 shows that we've conducted so far, and is they're having that ability to overcome fear and to embrace it, as you say, and be strong enough to be able to learn. I think I don't think there's a day gone by when I haven't learned many, many lessons along the way, whether it be in our own businesses here or others. So thank you for sharing that. One of the final questions I like to ask is really about the issue of, normally it's for employers, what sort of people, what are the characteristics you look for to hire people. In your case, because I know you're an independent contractor, the question I would put to you is very much in a similar manner, and that is, if you're going to do business with people, you're going to engage with people. When I say that, I know that you run coaching sessions as well, which we haven't mentioned. You're an executive coach as well, and you also run workshops where you engage and bring people in. What would be your recommendation, one or two items of thought for people to consider when they're going to engage in workshops with growth, with entrepreneurialism, with ideas of developing themselves? What would be your insight into what sort of mindset they should adopt if they're determined to grow as a person or as a business?
Business, whether you're hiring, whether it's in a personal relationship or whatever, for me, what matters is someone's value. If our values align, then that's fine. Skills, I always say, in business, in workplaces, whatever, you can train a skill, but I can't teach you how to be a human being. So values is key, really key. Number two is somebody who believes in themselves, whether they know where they're going, but they have a self-belief that I will do it, I can do it, give me a challenge, set me up, show me what I need to do. They're not sitting there waiting to be spoon-fed. Somebody who's got self-belief. And the third and last thing I'd say is self-discipline.